One thing about me, if it's ever been a long day and I'm too stressed out and overwhelmed, my grown ass will always turn on Batman the Animated Series. There's something about certain shows that just have the essence of comfort. And watching it from an adult perspective, you really see all the uncut gem of episodes that you took for granted that went right over your head. And some of the episodes have a different type of fear in it just from the simplicity. For example, there is an episode that I have never forgot. It's called Joker's Favor. And it's not really scary per se. It's more of just like a thriller, a mental mindfuck. So the story begins after work in Gotham. And y'all know how it is when you're just getting off of work and you're stuck in traffic. That's the scene. And if you see Charlie over here, he is broken down and tired. So he's driving home, and you know when you get into like that rush hour traffic, how there's always somebody with bad road rage? So after being everybody's bitch today, he gets cut off on the road. So Charlie speeds up next to the car to give him a piece of his mind. So as Charlie's yelling and cussing out this other driver, the window starts to roll, and bitch, it's the fucking Joker. Look at Charlie's face. And the Joker slowly looks over at Charlie and is like, "What's up, bitch?" This is a face of a man who just fucked up. So now, of course, Charlie's scared, so Charlie's trying to outrun the Joker and get away from him. But the Joker is a sadistic bastard, as we know. So the Joker chases poor Charlie into the woods. And he corners Charlie, and Charlie thinks he's about to die because the Joker loves to kill. And Charlie's pleading for his life. He's like, "I'll do anything." And the Joker's like, "Okay, I'm gonna give you some benevolence, ho. You're gonna owe me a favor. But I'm not gonna tell you when, I'm not gonna tell you why, and I'm not gonna tell you how. But just know, you are now in debt to me." It's 2 years later, he's been living in paranoia. He's moved away to protect his family, everybody changed their name, and the Joker still has yet to call on him. However, the Joker's always gonna leave a little hint that he's still watching him from afar. So finally, after 2 years, the Joker calls upon him. He wants him to help bomb the commissioner's award dinner. However, Charlie, now Don, he has a heart. He can't kill all these law enforcement people, so he sets off a petty version of the bat signal to alert Batman. And of course, Batman gets there, crashes it, and throws the bomb out the window. And then they go into battle with the Joker. So fast forward to the end. The Joker thinks he escaped Batman's clutch just to find himself face to face in an alleyway with Charlie. And Charlie's at this point, he's in mad desperation. So in order to protect his family from Joker's threat, he's ready to off himself and the Joker because he really hasn't been living at all. So driven by mad desperation and torture, Charlie holds up one of the Joker's bomb and grips him up. And Charlie lets him know he will take his own life and the Joker, which would kill the Joker because, not only physically, the Joker's only dream has been to defeat the Batman because there are two sides of the same coin at different extremes. So the Joker being killed by an average Joe would rob him of the spectacle of killing the Batman, or at least dying with infamy. After all the things that Joker's done, he doesn't want to be remembered by being killed by a miserable little nobody. But before anything can happen, Batman, swoops in to save the day. Batman gets the Joker to release all his information he has on Charlie's family. And finally, relieved, Charlie throws down the bomb just for it to be fucking confetti, because the Joker stays being petty. However, the deeper inclination is, from the trauma of the spectacle of road rage, Charlie's mental and psyche is forever darkened over a simple favor. So as many of you guys know from my other video the other day, Batman the Animated Series is my comfort show. And as I was talking about one of my favorite episodes, Joker's Favor, which if you haven't seen my video on that, go watch it. Another one of my followers mentioned another iconic episode, and that is the legendary Emmy award-winning episode Heart of Ice. Let's get into it. Okay, so we just go get into the best parts of the episode, which is the whole thing, but I just want to get into the backstory because that's my favorite part. Okay, so once upon a time, this is Mr. Freeze. However, Mr. Freeze didn't start off like most villains don't. Mr. Freeze started out life as, he started as a brilliant scientist at Gotham Corp. Y'all know Gotham Corp, the people company. The people. But Victor, yeah, he was a scientist, he was brilliant, he was a family man, he had his wife, he had a good life, and he went hard for those he loved, as you see. So due to him being a genius, he created like this freezing cell to hold his wife in like suspended animation until a cure for the disease that she contracted was found. Which has to be hard, you being a scientist of science and you can't cure the ones you love most. This episode is very Shakespearean if you haven't got it. However, despite him doing this out of true love, the means he went about to do his experiments or creation meant he had to pretty much steal money from Gotham Corp, the people company, and it left him in debt. So it starts getting people's attention, and he was confronted by this man, Ferris Boyle. And Ferris came there to confront him and like, hey dude, all this money that you're misappropriating. And Ferris also came there with security guards because of course they're gonna fire him. He pulls out his Glockies because he's like, y'all cannot stop this experiment. If y'all unplug this or stop this, my wife dies. Her suspended animation stops. The only thing keeping her alive is this machine I made at Gotham Corp. But he don't give a fuck about that shit, and a fight ensues. So now that it's a stick up, Ferris over here, he successfully tries to start talking down Victor, telling him, you know, calm down, violence is really not in your nature. And Victor's like, bitch, I'm trying to save my wife. And Ferris tries to be all relatable with him, like, I understand, blah, 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 you know. And as Victor's beginning to let his guard down and calm down, cause in nature, he is not an evil man. He's a man that will go to the ends of the earth for love. So he sets the gun down, and this bitch kicks him. And the thing that annoys me, rather with true intent or not, you already tried to successfully de-escalate the problem, which he was calming down, but you just had to prove a bitch-ass point. So he kicks poor Victor, and poor Victor Fries crashes into a lab table full of like beakers and like experiment, and they get all over his skin, sending him crashing into the cryogenic frozen chamber that has his wife in. And it soaked his body with the freezing solution, I guess, making him where he will no longer be able to survive outside of sub-zero weather or an environment, causing him to vow revenge on those who wronged him. Do we need a part 2? Because I just don't think I'll ever be able to get over how much of a masterpiece this is. And it's been like over 20 years, and every episode in the Batman animated series still holds. So now if you watch part 1, you know how Victor Fries became. And now that he has become Mr. Freeze, he's about to show us all why revenge is a dish best served cold. I'm sorry, that shit was corny as fuck, and I hated myself for that. Let's move on. So Summer Gleason is a news reporter, and she's just reporting outside of one of the Gotham Corp offices because now it's the middle of the summer, and these heists that are happening are all hitting Gotham Corp company, and they all have the same MO of ice being left behind. And remember, this is the middle of a summer, so of course it's gonna raise some eyebrows like, what's going on? This shit is all connected. So then, like always, you know, Batman, his nosy ass gotta get involved because or else there wouldn't be a show. He's like, how can I solve and find out what's going on here? And he starts to see the consistency. So, you know, with Batman being the greatest detective in the world, he figures out where they're about to hit next. And he was like, bitch, it's a date. I'm gonna meet y'all hoes there. So that night, Batman crashes their heist and they go into battle. And see, Mr. Freeze goes to hit Batman, but he accidentally hits one of his henchmen. So he's like, bitch, you're no longer no use to me. And Mr. Freeze leaves his henchman because he's on a fucking mission. But he also is able to hit Batman, and Batman gets frozen. However, you know, Batman with his cape and his gadget belt, it seems like he can do anything. Batman will ask for a cheeseburger and one will appear outside of his cape. It's just, his cape does it all. Well, his suit, you know what I mean. So Batman gets back to the Batcave, and he melts Mr. Freeze's henchman that he left behind because he was like, fuck him, he's holding us back. And pretty much the henchman snitches. So now to get more business intellectual type information, Batman switches back into Bruce Wayne, and he goes to Gotham Corp to talk to Mr. Boyle. And he asks him, do you have any enemies that you think would be after you? And he says no, because he's oblivious to all the bullshit he's done. And he tells him the last person who did have some vendetta against him died in a freak accident. But Bruce knows something else is up. So later on that day, Bruce gets into like a janitor disguise. He sneaks into one of the offices, finds Victor's file, and finds out what really happened to him, which is his backstory I showed you in part 1. And you know, Batman/Bruce is shocked to see the cruelty that was thrust upon him. However, appearing behind him is Mr. Freeze, and he blasts his ass. And now that Mr. Freeze has kidnapped Batman and his slayer, Mr. Freeze can finally seek out his revenge against Ferris Boy, because Ferris is about to receive an award. So now with Batman tied up, Mr. Freeze finally confronts Mr. Boyle at his award ceremony. This nigga was getting Humanitarian of the Year. And Mr. Freeze is like, bitch, I can't wait to see you frozen. Part 3 in the finale down below. Part 3 in the finale of one of Batman the Animated Series' best episodes, Heart of Ice. So Mr. Freeze crashes the Humanitarian of the Year award banquet because he's finally gonna get his revenge on Mr. Boyle bitch ass. And he like freezes the downstairs of the building and stuff like that. And then he goes straight after Mr. Boyle because, honey, bitch, you want thin ice. Literally. I'm sorry, y'all, I could not resist that one. And finally, just as he's getting up to his waist and beyond, Batman bitch ass swoops in to give out justice. Because justice is fine, Vengeance is the problem. So Batman and him fight, because I'm skipping over a lot, and he breaks Mr. Freeze's containment glass around his head, because remember, he can only be in sub-zero weather, as I told you in the other part. And that pretty much subdues him. However, Batman ain't through with Boyle, because Batman goes over to the TV reporter Summer Gleason, who was reporting about the strange ice mishappenings early, and gives her the story of what happened to Victor Freeze and how he became the monster that he is today. So now, even though it's not the type of revenge Mr. Freeze wants, the ideal image of Mr. Boyle is forever ruined because they seen what his cruelty thrust another man to become. And then we get the most heartbreaking part. We fast forward to Arkham Asylum, where Mr. Freeze is, because, you know, he's a criminal. So as he's all alone in his sub-zero prison chamber, he talks to this ballerina music box that's kind of like a metaphor or a symbol for his wife. And he's saying with, you know, sadness and heartbreak, because now that he's alone, or so he thinks because Batman's watching above, he can finally let his emotions thaw out, per se. And he's just in deep sorrow and apologizing because he still doesn't feel like he avenged his wife to the standards that he set for himself. And you see, now you can see his eyes, because his eyes used to be like those red light goggles. And red is a symbolism for passion. It's a symbol for passion, burning desire. And his burning desire was revenge. But behind that burning desire to get revenge and right the wrongs that were thrust upon him, his real eyes hold the sorrow that the red passion represented and covered up. Or some could say, froze up his emotions for the time being. It's just pretty much a masking of his true emotion. Because when I tell you, one of the best quotes you would take away from this episode is simply when Mr. Freeze says to Batman, "To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold." He said, "I would kill for that." And it's the simple things we take for granted. And it's like, even though he's creepy looking, like, look at him down here. He's so cute. Like, I'd have been on his cell at Arkham, like, do you want to build a snowman?